Our first guest is Pete Vlastelica. He is the president and CEO of Activision Blizzard Esports Leagues, which operates Blizzard Entertainment's Overwatch League, the Call of Duty League, and the rest of the Activision Blizzard Esports portfolio. Pete has led the launch of 2 professional leagues, establishing the strategy, the infrastructure, and commercialization for initial seasons. And across esports properties, he oversees operations, strategy, product, marketing, broadcast, content, and commercial partnerships. Pete, congratulations. You just wrapped up your first inaugural season of the Call of Duty League. I was there for the opening. What a thrilling season you've had. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, it's good timing. I mean, I think if we had been talking a week ago, I'd have a different kind of stress level in my voice, but we made it through the weekend. We had a fantastic championship weekend, crowned the inaugural champion of the Call of Duty League, the very first season, and I think set ourselves up pretty well going into next year. And yeah, couldn't be more excited about how the season played out, despite substantial headwinds, which I'm sure we'll get into in this conversation.
Well, Pete, I'm a little bit bitter because the Rocker and I, we puttered. We sputtered down the end. We had a great start, but unfortunately, you know, with my long aspirations to buy the New York Jets, I've got a nice preview of frustrations in my first season here as a part owner. So I'm a little less happy than you because I wanted this weekend to work out differently. But for the audience here, set up what just a whole framework. What is Activision Blizzard Esports that you run?
Okay, so before I do that, I'm going to give you a little hope, Gary.
Please.
Because in the other league that we run, the Overwatch League,
yes,
in the first season, which was 2 years ago, the Shanghai Dragons went 0-40. 0-40. They literally didn't win a single match in the first season, and they picked up a bunch of fans because people just wanted to see them win. Like, their viewership was off the charts because people were like, maybe today's the day the Dragons are going to win. This year, the Dragons are the odds-on favorite to win it all. So
I love it.
There are quick turnarounds this early on in development.
I appreciate that, Pete. Thanks for making me feel good.
You guys will get there. So I run Activision Blizzard Esports, which operates primarily those 2 leagues, the Call of Duty League and the Overwatch League. We also operate esports programs around the games Hearthstone, World of Warcraft, StarCraft. But our primary focus is on these 2 professional, franchised, city-based leagues that we've created around the games Call of Duty and Overwatch. And you know what those leagues do differently from other esports programs in the world is they've taken a page out of the traditional sports book and said, you know what, there are ways to unlock fans and value that traditional sports have really gotten right over the years, and we should learn from that. We should bring on, you know, sports owners who may come from a sports background who know how to create fans in a local market. We should situate the team in a local market so that fans who might not otherwise have a reason to root for a team now know who they're going to root for. We should demonstrate value to media rights partners and sponsors in the way that traditional sports do, which is not something that had really happened in esports prior to this, because most esports programs had been operated as like marketing for the core game. And so the operators of those programs were giving content away and you know, not articulating the value of the audience in the way that we thought was possible. And so that's what we've been working on for the past 4 years. First league we launched was the Overwatch League, which is in its 3rd season, about to head into the postseason. And then just this year, we launched the Call of Duty League, which same basic model, more of a kind of Western focus as opposed to Overwatch League, which is truly global with a big Asian presence. And we're, like I said, we're about to wrap up that. We just wrapped up that season, and we're about to wrap up the Overwatch League season in a few weeks.
So let's get into probably the elephant in the room. Like, I think a lot of people looking to learn here. I think the most interesting thing that people would want to know is what has been the impact of COVID on esports in general. You know, because I think there could be assumptions in both ways. I'd just love to get your 3 cents on that.
Yeah. So we didn't, see this coming. No one saw this coming. The timing was kind of crazy for us though, because for the past 3 years, we'd been working on what we called Project 2020, which was really all the work involved in preparing us for this year when we were doing two things that we hadn't done before and that really no one had done before. One was launching this new league, the Call of Duty League, and the other was going home and away with our matches for the first time. And so for the first 2 seasons of the Overwatch League, we operated out of a central studio here in Los Angeles. But going into the third season, the plan was for teams to manage their own events in their local markets and, to stand up, true kind of local economies around these teams. So we did that in January and February. We ran a few events in both leagues. Maha mentioned she was at our and you were there too, Gary, at our first ever.
It sure was. I mean, we had the great honor of Minnesota actually hosting the opening weekend, so that was a big deal, and I was super excited about that.
Yeah, and it went really well. The fans were psyched, partners were psyched. In the Overwatch League, we sold out our first few events, and then boom, COVID hit, and we had to very quickly figure out what we were going to do for the rest of the season, just like everybody else in the live entertainment business had to do. I guess the thing that we were able to do that maybe others in the live entertainment business or traditional sports business didn't have the sort of the opportunity to do was continue with our season. I mean, we took a 2-week hiatus and used that time to plan for a completely remote competition, reformatted the schedule, built a completely remote production infrastructure, meaning all of our live producers, right? The replay operators and the graphics operators and the director and the producers are all working remotely from home using a kind of a virtual control room system that we hadn't used before. Really, no one had. And then 2 weeks later, we were back on stream with matches that were perfectly viable from a competitive integrity perspective, delivering audience, delivering on the value to our sponsors. So we played out the rest of our season completely online. And, I won't say we didn't miss a beat because, not only did we take that 2-week hiatus, but we also obviously aren't able to prove this kind of local event model.
Pete, leave it up to me to get involved in in the league that does the physical part of esports that runs right into the COVID buzzsaw. I was laughing. Totally. I was like, just amazing irony. But, obviously there'll be an opportunity to prove out the thesis.
I mean, what I say and actually feel is that we got enough evidence early on in the season to know to feel confident that the model is going to work. Obviously, we don't know when because now, just like every other live event business, we're planning into 2021 with a lot of contingencies, right? Like we're not sure when we'll be back. What we're saying is we'll be back in front of live audiences as soon as it's safe. And by the way, as a global business, there's another kind of layer of variables there because that sort of perception or definition of safety is different depending on the region you're in.
Yeah. One thing that I'd like you to talk about, since you're our first guest, is a macro thing that I find very fascinating and know there's a lot of people watching here for education, both from a corporate and an entrepreneurial side, is just the demo of esports. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding or assumptions around gender and things of that nature that I think might be a fun topic. Anything from your perspective, since you get to see quite a bit?
Well, it's definitely a young audience. I came from traditional sports. I did a startup in traditional sports media, sold that to Fox Sports, and then worked at Fox Sports for 6 years as an executive. I was running digital there. At Fox, the sports that we worked with were, the traditional, the big ones, the NFL, Major League Baseball. we worked with UFC, we worked with NASCAR, we worked with hockey and basketball. And one of the things that I noticed during my time there was that the average age of a fan of those sports was getting older and older. The average NFL fan, I think at this point, and by the way, big NFL fan, big baseball fan, and so this isn't me disparaging those sports.
Well, good news, Pete. Good news. You and I are old too, so
yeah. Well, yeah, we are, and getting older, and that's what's happening to the audience of the traditional sports too. Like I think 10 years ago, the average football fan was like 45, and now they're close to 55. So it's like going the wrong direction. And so I kind of looked out and said, man, if there were a digital native sport that could start today with a very young audience and then do everything in its power to keep the audience young, that'd be very interesting. And that's kind of what esports is. I mean, it's a young global digital native sport. So our average fan in Overwatch League is early 20s. Call of Duty fans are slightly older. I mentioned that in Overwatch League, our audience is very global. About 50-50 East and West, big audience in China, big audience in Korea. Call of Duty is much more of a Western game, so North America and Western Europe, and skews a little bit older and a little bit more male. Overwatch League is skews surprisingly female, partly because of the nature of the game. I don't know if you played Overwatch, but it's this like bright, vibrant, positive, inclusive, kind of optimistic version of future Earth that you're playing in. And the nature of the game itself, I think, has drawn a player base that skews younger and more female. And we see that at our events. Like it's not quite 50-50. We aspire and kind of reach out to sort of create an even more kind of balanced mix there. But it's not quite 50-50, but there are a surprising number of young women and girls that attend these events.
Surprising to the people that are watching that are just make the assumptions, not surprising
right.
for anybody who's been paying attention on what, on what's been going on in this space really for the last half decade, obviously, and even further back.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the key to bringing women in is making the space feel safe and inviting, and inclusive. And that's something the game does very well.
I think casual gaming and mobile gaming has been an incredible gateway in general as well. If you kind of look at demos and numbers and young girls play and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And mobile, it's hard to generalize mobile gaming audiences. Like depending on the game, the audiences can be, 7 or 8 years old or 70 or 80.
It's for facts.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, we got a crazy lineup, so we're going to have to transition. So
No worries.
I just appreciate you being on, and thanks so much.